The Sunday school lesson for August 6, 2023 is forgiving one another. Matthew chapter 18, verses 21 through 35. Welcome, viewers and subscribers, to my channel, The Backstory. I am Audrey, and on this channel, you will become aware of the events that take place before each Sunday school lesson. If you are new here, this is the agenda. I will share the backstory, read the lesson text, and offer a brief lesson summary. If after watching this video, it provides some value or is of some benefit to you, please like, comment, and above all else, subscribe. The backstory. Let's begin. The backstory focuses on dealing with sin in the church. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 20. Matthew chapter 18, verses 15 through 17 conveys specific steps to follow when dealing with sin in the church. If your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault, just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over. But if they will not listen, take one or two others along, so that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. If they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Verses 18 through 20 offers a powerful effect of the power of prayer. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where two or three gather in my name, there am I with them. Forgiving one another. Time AD 29, place Capernaum. Golden text. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thy wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desirest me. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? Verse 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times? Verse 22. Jesus saith unto him, I say not unto thee, until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Verse 23. Therefore is the kingdom of heaven likened unto a certain king, which would take account of his servants. Verse 24. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. Verse 25. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. Verse 26. The servant therefore fell down and worshipped him, saying, Lord, have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Verse 27. Then the Lord of that servant was moved with compassion, and loosed him, and forgave him the debt. Verse 28. But the same servant went out, and found one of his fellow servants, which owed him 100 pence, and he laid hands on him, and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me that thou owest. Verse 29. And his fellow servant fell down at his feet and besought him, saying, Have patience with me, and I will pay thee all. Verse 30. And he would not, but went and cast him into prison till he should pay the debt. Verse 31. So when his fellow servants saw what was done, they were very sorry, and came and told unto their Lord all that was done. Verse 32. Then his Lord, after that he had called him, said unto him, O thou wicked servant, I forgave thee all that debt, because thou desirest me. Verse 33. Shouldest not thou also have had compassion on thy fellow servant, even as I had pity on thee? Verse 34. And his Lord was wroth, and delivered him to the tormentors, till he should pay all that was due unto him. Verse 35. So likewise shall my heavenly Father do also unto you, if ye from your hearts forgive not every one his brother their trespasses. A brief summary. Jesus continued teaching about the church's priorities. Not only would the church nurture the youngest ones and seek the lost ones, but it would restore the rebellious ones. The pattern for doing so is clear and methodical. First, Jesus called his church to attempt to resolve conflict with a private, face-to-face confrontation. Should that not bring results, reliable witnesses would be called into service. If all else failed, the church would publicly separate from the offending party. But the purpose of that separation is always for the hope of restoration. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. Discipline must never be done capriciously, but must always follow the Old Testament standard of evidence, the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. Deuteronomy chapter 17, verse 6. Peter sought clarification on the limits of forgiveness. An offer of forgiveness up to 7 times certainly seemed to show extraordinary patience and compassion. Peter was using a number to put a cap on forgiveness. Jesus' response indicated forgiveness that was without limit. Genesis chapter 4, verse 24. Jesus then illustrated boundless forgiveness with a parable. A king took an inventory of what his servants owed him. One servant owed him 10,000 bags of gold, about 200,000 years of wages. But hearing the servant's plea, the king forgave the debt. But that servant then went out to collect a much smaller debt from one of his fellow servants. The debt of 100 days' wages, 100 silver coins, was not insignificant. It would not be painless to write it off, but compared to what the first servant had been forgiven, it was very little. The unforgiving servant refused to extend the kind of compassion he had been shown by the king. Instead, he had his fellow servant thrown into debtor's prison. The king's understandable response illustrated God's response to a lack of forgiveness by those he has forgiven. Thank you so much for watching. Join me soon for the next backstory. Stay safe and may God bless.